This is the solvent wipe down that I spoke about earlier. This is going to do a couple things. First of all, it's going to remove all the sanding dust and debris that you created during the sanding of the project. And second of all, it's going to wet the wood, which will highlight any problems that you might have, like little nicks or scratches, or maybe a dent or something that didn't come out with the sanding. And you can correct that before you get into the staining process or even applying the clear finish. Now, it's very important that if you use water on wood, and particularly a high tannin wood like cherry, always use distilled water. In fact, I use just distilled water on all woods just to play it safe. If you don't use distilled water and you use tap water on woods like cherry and oak, what will happen is you'll get little black spots, which are little iron reactions from the iron that's salts that are dissolved in tap water. And that's going to create all sorts of problems. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use distilled water. I've just got a clean cloth. I like the microfiber cloths because they're nice and absorbent. And all I'll do, I'll just get a fair amount of water in there, and then I'll just wipe the surface of the wood. And what I'm looking for is any problems like dents, nicks, maybe glue spots that you didn't get off some dried glue from the assembly process. Everything's looking pretty good so far. So I'll just continue on with this, and we'll come back in a little bit and I'll show you what to do should you find some problems. That right there and there are glue spots. And that's what the wipe down will telegraph. It's really important that you get rid of all glue residue before you stain. Maybe not so important when you apply clear finish, but when you stain, this will stain very light and be very, very visible. So you want to get that out. The fix for that is really simple. You just let the wood dry and then go back and maybe use a scraper or some sandpaper and hit that spot again. Wipe it down with water, make sure that you get rid of everything. Pay attention to all these little areas where you did the glue up. That's where glue is apt to be, or residue is apt to be that didn't get sanded off. Okay, I've sanded this with some 180. Wipe it again, and voila, all the glue's gone. Now it's really hard to see, but after I wiped the top of this bird's eye maple down with water, I noticed that there were a couple of tear outs from the machining process. That's very common to happen with bird's eye maple or really any figured wood. Now this is going to get a clear finish. I don't like using putties, filler sticks, or any of that kind of stuff for those little types of problems. First of all, it's really hard to get, any sort of filler to match exactly the wood. So what I do is I use a product that is called super glue. And it's really important that you use the thicker viscosities of super glue when you're filling little divots like this. The thin product that you normally get will really wick in down into the wood, and it's really hard to clean up. So in this case, I'm using a product called medium. There's also thick that you can use. And I'm also going to use an accelerator for it. And the way that you do this is you just take the super glue and just put a little bit on the area that you want to fill. Take the accelerator and kick it. What that will do is almost instantly make a very, very hard fill that you can come back and sand. In fact, I probably only have to wait a few seconds before I can come in with some 180 grit and actually sand that. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm feather sanding. Again, you don't want to sand one area too much. After you get that level and clear, take a few swipes and feather it out to a larger area. That way you won't make a noticeable depression. Perfect. One of the other problems I found after I'd wiped down the entire piece with water was that on this drawer front there was a dent. Now that probably happened just from just moving the piece around or for whatever reason, but it was a fairly sizable dent and it was very visible after it was wiped with water. It's really hard to see with the camera, so I can't really show you, but what I do want to show you is how I fix it. What I'm going to use is just a standard household iron. I've got the setting on about 8 or, about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way up. It's the setting for cotton. I'm also going to use some distilled water again and just a rag. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the rag and I'm going to wet that area again where the dent was. Just get a fair amount of water on there. And then I'm going to take a corner of the rag, put some distilled water on it, and just using the tip of the iron, I'll steam that. You want to see some steam come up. I mean, that'll tell you that the iron's hot enough. You'll gradually see that dent or that depression raise up a little bit. You'll never get it completely out. All you're doing is you're just swelling the wood a little bit. So what you do is you just get it as close as you can after maybe about 2 or 3 applications with the iron. And then let it dry and then sand it out.